Hello, everybody. Welcome into our Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore at the UGA Bookstore as Georgia continues its domination of one of its hated rivals, Auburn. The Deep South's oldest rivalry has belonged to Georgia for a lot of years. That continues here again on this Saturday as well as the Dogs get a 42-10 win against Auburn here over at Sanford Stadium in a game that concluded a couple of moments ago. Couple of thoughts from me, and then I want to hear from Terence Edwards, and we want to hear from all of you there as well. I think today is obviously one of those days where you see a lot going on. And in some respects, you're going to pay attention to what maybe Georgia didn't do, especially early in the game with the passing attack. I get that. I want to talk about that. Let's have that conversation here today. But I don't think that should obscure the larger point, which is I think you saw a lot today to like from Georgia. Two things in particular that'll travel. Two things in particular that I think set Georgia up for more success as the season goes on. You get to November where you play what looks to be a pretty challenging stretch. You need your running game. You need your defense. And I thought you got that today in a better way than you probably have all season long in that you got after the quarterback today. You made life tough on Robbie Ashford, the Auburn quarterback. He was running for his life literally the entire game. That's something that Georgia, I thought, today did very well. Also, finding the rushing attack. Obviously, Terence Edwards has a huge game, but beyond that as well, finding that rushing attack and kind of getting that going. Another thing today that I think that you really like, and when you add that to, kind of what you've needed to see from Georgia over the course of the last couple of weeks, to me, that's a huge step in the right direction on all of that. So we can talk about maybe some of what you didn't see from Georgia, but I think the show's got to begin with what you did see and continuing, as I mentioned a moment ago, that domination over Auburn here, which is a streak now that stretches a good number of years and a lot of really, really staggering performances, and Georgia kind of gets another one of those today with this 42-10 win. Also, we want to hear from you, whether it be in the regular comment section by typing in your words, or if you want to join us live on the Zoom chat, whichever video section you're watching in, you'll get a chance to kind of click that link and be a part of our show here today, and we'll have your calls live on the air. And also, if you want to stop by and see us here at the UGA Bookstore, we'll kind of put you in a line just kind of right over here to my right. We'll pull you over here and give you a chance to be on the show and give your thoughts on what's going on with UGA there as well. If you want to be on, come on over here. We'll get you on here in just a second. So we got folks who are already kind of coming in and having a good time with that. And, of course, you tune in as well to hear the take from Terence Edwards there, too. Terence's take here on a 42-10 win for Georgia against Auburn. Terence, I think you and I both were probably a little concerned with what we saw from the Georgia passing attack for a while here today, but in totality, I thought this was a big step forward for Georgia, especially after some pretty disappointing performances in each of the last 2 weeks. I thought Georgia kind of got back to looking a little bit more like Georgia here today.
Most definitely. The feel of the game, even when we didn't score in the first quarter, just the feel of the game was a lot different than the Missouri feel. The Missouri feel was we were uptight, played a little timid. Today, I think we came out loose. Even though the passing game was not clicking, I think we only had 25 yards passing
I think that's it.
In the first half. But everyone had just been, wondering about their running attack. And, we saw the running attack today, and that's what we have been preaching. And now if we could get both of those components meshing together, then this would be the team that we all think we could be.
That's exactly right, Terence. I appreciate the point of view, and we'll take a lot of Zoom calls here in a moment from folks who want to weigh in. But we also have some folks here live at the UGA Bookstore who are doing that there as well, including our first guest here right now. Tell folks your name.
I'm Joanna Futch, and I live in Alabama.
Oh, wow.
But I represent with the Georgia flag on my house.
Listen, that's a good Georgia fan right there. If you're representing the Dogs in the state of Alabama, are you closer to Tuscaloosa or are you closer to Auburn?
Probably closer to Auburn.
All right. Well, that's a good day to be you then. What'd you think about the game today?
Oh, it was amazing. And it looked like our dogs are back. Or coming back close. Last 2 games were not so great.
I would agree with that. It did look more like Georgia today. What in particular impressed you?
Well,
how about Dejon Edwards?
Yes, Dejon Edwards, and Stetson was getting more of his passes completed, and the running game looked better. It was much better. It was awesome. And I listen to your show every day.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming by and seeing us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good stuff there. Well, yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take a lot of comments from folks who stop by and see us here. If you want to be on the show, we'll get you lined up right over here and get you on, and we'll take your Zoom calls there as well. We'll give you a chance to react. But, Terrence, I thought Joanne said it exactly right. For me, this was an example of Georgia looking a little bit more like Georgia. Maybe not perfect. Maybe still some things to work on, still some things to improve upon. But for me, this was a day in which I thought Georgia took a big step towards looking not just like the version of Georgia we've seen this year, but kind of the best version of Georgia under Kirby Smart, where you do get after the quarterback, where you do run the football. Dejan Edwards really setting the tone for that. That's some of I think what you're going to hear from a lot of fans here today, which is, wow, this sort of felt like the version of this team we've come used to seeing, as opposed to what we have seen the last couple of weeks, which is decidedly not the same version of the Georgia Bulldogs.
Right. We definitely looked better today. I thought the offensive line, if I had a game ball, I think I would give the game ball to the whole offense line. They came today. They came to play the running game, and Dejan Edwards was really he had a good day. He had a career day today. And then I tweeted out earlier, I almost tweeted out if he'd have scored that last touchdown, like, Dejan, you got one more to top another Edwards that had 4 touchdowns against Auburn. And he looked fantastic. The running game looked fantastic. I'm very proud of the Dogs today. I think defensively they played well. Special teams, we played well. We did give up that fake punt. I think that was the key to momentum to get us going offensively. So it was just a complete game today. I think, I think Stetson could play a little bit better in the first half, but, I'm the president of the bandwagon. I'm going to stay on for right now.
No doubt about that. By the way, in a second, I'm going to see if we can get this sign on the camera here supporting Malachi Starks, who almost had an interception there at the end of that game. That was great to see. In a second, I'd love to show folks that. But first, we got some more Georgia fans want to weigh in. How you doing? Good to have you here.
Hey, thank you so much, Brandon.
Absolutely. Remind folks what your name is, then tell us your thoughts about these Dogs.
I'm Chris Woods. Had a great time tonight. They did a lot better than the last couple games, and I was pretty proud of them. Hopefully we'll play good the next couple weeks.
Yeah, Chris, it seems like that's a theme that we've been hearing a lot about is, hey, last week against Missouri, they didn't quite look like UGA, and certainly against Kent State before that, I felt like the emotion in the stadium today was far different than it had been for the non-Power 5 competition that Georgia had been playing here at Sanford Stadium. I thought the emotion inside the stadium was far different. Did you kind of get the same vibe?
Absolutely, and I think the team kind of felt the same way too, especially with getting guys like Dejan involved. It was all around a great effort by the team.
That's exactly right. Thanks for Chris coming by and being on the show. We certainly appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, from you from Rome, Italy. Remember that?
Oh, that's exactly right. Checking in from Rome, Italy. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm always impressed by the traveling our audience does, going to Italy and Europe and places like that. I'm always very impressed by all the good trips the folks in our audience get a chance to take. But Terrence, what Chris was talking about there was something else that we had kind of seen, which is that, hey, the atmosphere today, the crowd was unbelievable. This really felt like, kind of what big-time college football is supposed to feel like. It wasn't sleepy. It wasn't, sleepwalking. It wasn't, kind of hard to get up for. I thought the crowd did a great job today of kind of creating the energy in the stadium. And as a guy who's played the game yourself, I think you would agree that it just makes it so much easier to get going in a game when you do have that crowd energy to feed off of, and I'm sure you'd probably agree with that.
Oh, most definitely, especially against Auburn. We understand what this rivalry is, deepest rivalry in the South. So the crowd is definitely a 12th man. I know that Texas A&M used that motto, but the crowd and the fan base definitely motivates us. It gets us going, and we definitely need those 93,000 strong to energize us at times.
It's the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. We're here at the UGA Bookstore. In fact, you'll see me wearing this great-looking pullover here from Columbia. It's part of the great apparel. Down on the first floor, all kinds of great UGA apparel, UGA gear. You want to look good for the season, you can get that right down there on the first floor of the UGA Bookstore. And so if you're leaving the stadium, come by and do some shopping. And if you want to come by and say hello to us up here on the second floor, we'll give you a chance to do that, including these great Dog fans. They got the Malachi Starks sign going. Malachi almost got himself an interception at the end of this game. Are you guys from Jefferson?
Yes.
What's your name?
Macy.
And what's your name?
Lexi.
So what did you feel about the game today?
I think they played great.
How proud are you of how well Malachi Starks has played? After having only been in high school last year and playing for Georgia right now, how impressed have you been to see all that?
We're really impressed.
What else did you enjoy about the game today?
I like how well they played.
Well, listen, I appreciate you guys stopping by and hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And thanks for supporting Malachi Starks.
Thank you.
Good stuff there from some Georgia fans here on the scene at the UGA bookstore. We'll also check in with some of our Zoom calls as well. And don't forget, when you're watching whichever video comment section you're in, you can hop on here and give your thoughts, including Justin Story, who checks in right now via Zoom. Click that Zoom link. You can join the show live. Justin joins us right now here on the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA bookstore. Justin, thanks for your time. What did you think about the game here this evening?
I think they looked a lot better this week than last week. But I got to say, we need to see more Robinson. That guy was a beast.
Hey, tell us one more time. We need to see more who? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said there. See more of who?
Robinson.
Oh, Branson Robinson, I think you may have said.
Yeah, Robinson, man. He is a beast.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
He looks RBU right there.
I think that's exactly right, and I think that's a great call. And, Terrence, that is a name that I think, you saw a lot of today. He got a chance to get some first quarter carries today, which was a nice thing to see, which is probably a pretty good sign in terms of what he's able to do for this team right now. And when he did run the football, I think Justin used the right word. He looked like a beast carrying it. Now, we also know that Kendall Milton battled injury here a little bit. It was reported on the radio broadcast that he was dealing with a groin injury, and that's the reason why you didn't see him go back in the game today. At least that's my understanding. But, Terrence, would you also join Justin in saying you'd like to see a little bit more of Branson Robinson in the game for Georgia at the running back spot?
Most definitely. In this league, you got to have depth at the running back spot because you never know the injury bug will hit. But he definitely ran the ball hard and strong. I mean, you just can look at the young man physique right now. I mean, he is ripped up. You've seen all the pictures of him in the weight room, and he's another one of those Nick Chubb weight room warrior type running back. And once he continues to get more experience, now with Milton being hurt, we're going to need that third running back to go with Dejon Edwards and Kenny McIntyre. So he did well tonight, and this experience is just going to carry along for the rest of the season.
We're going to get back to your Zoom calls here in a moment. Let me also remind you, next Saturday, Dogs remain at home for the game against Vanderbilt. And here where we are tonight, the UGA bookstore, big day of autograph signings going on from noon until 3 p.m., really actually starting at 10 a.m., from 10 a.m. till noon next week. Hot Rod, Rodrigo Blankenship going to be in the house. Monty Rice is going to be here. Former Georgia wide receiver Jason Stanley going to be on hand there as well. And then from 1 to 3 p.m., you got Malcolm Mitchell, Buck Ballou on hand there too. My understanding is Aaron Murray is going to be here next week as well. So you got a great collection of autographed guests going to be here on hand next week, starting at 10 a.m., really leading into the kickoff there at 3:30 next weekend against the Vanderbilt Commodores. So a lot of fun here at the UGA bookstore. Great chance to come out and meet some former Dogs before each and every game. They've got a great collection of these autographs, and you get a chance to see that some next week here at the UGA bookstore. Back to the Zoom calls in a moment, but first, another Georgia fan joins us here on the Dog Nation postgame show from the UGA bookstore. Tell folks your name and what you thought about the game today.
Chris, and I really was impressed by the game, really impressed by the running back play, as you said, and then the blocking. The blocking seemed a lot better today, gave Stetson a little bit better protection. Yeah, he got out a little bit and got a little drifty, but he made some good plays as he got down the field. So overall, really impressed by the Dogs. They played really well today.
Are you like me in that, hey, one of the things that Stetson Bennett should have at his disposal and yet really didn't use it a ton last week against Missouri was that his own ability to run the football. He has the long touchdown run today. For me personally, that's something I've actually wanted to see a little bit more of. How much fun was it to see Stetson get a chance to use his legs and actually get the really big play on the ground there?
It was great. I mean, that long run he had was excellent. I mean, he kept himself as a threat going forward, and so I think you're going to have teams now see him more, kind of spy him if they need to, or take off when he needs to. So I think it adds another layer of versatility to this Georgia team.
Hey, that's a great comment. Thanks for stopping by and seeing us.
Thanks for being
your shirt too. You look sharp. Yeah, appreciate that. Have a good weekend. All right. So a lot of Georgia fans weighing in right there, and we'll continue to let them do that live on the scene here at the Dog Nation postgame show at the UGA bookstore. Jalen also checking in via Zoom as well. Jalen, thanks for joining our show tonight. You hear some interesting thoughts there from a Dog fan on the scene. How about yourself? What did you think about what you saw this afternoon from Georgia?
Man, it was a great win. I think that our run game definitely got on track today. Definitely want to see our passing game kind of pick it up, though, because Tennessee definitely is looking like a threat. So I would like to see our passing game pick it up, but good win overall.
Yeah, Jalen, I think that's a very fair comment. I appreciate you joining us. And, Terrence, I don't mind that at all. I mean, I do think this is a day in which Georgia gets a rivalry win, and I thought the defense played better. I thought you really found something, a spark on the ground, and maybe, as one of our commenters mentioned a moment ago, kind of an emerging star here when it comes to Branson Robinson, obviously going along with what Dejon Edwards did. I think all that's true, but I also don't mind Jalen pointing out that, hey, one of the areas in which Georgia was kind of deficient today. One of the areas in which Georgia wasn't probably at a championship level is throwing the football. And I don't know. I mean, a lot of folks are saying on social media, hey, does it look like Stetson may be banged up? We'll see what Kirby Smart says about that. We'll try to hear some from Kirby on his post-game press conference before our show is done here. But there's no doubt in the midst of an overall dominant blowout win for Georgia, the passing game today leaves a lot to be desired. And I do think that's the kind of thing that we ought to have that conversation about. We ought to lean in pretty closely for whatever it is that Kirby Smart, the Georgia players, say about that too, because that was one of the areas today which Georgia did not quite get back on track. And, Terrence, I know you noticed that during the game as well.
Most definitely. And just one series in particular, when we had about a minute 40 to go, trying to go into the half, and he overthrew Brock, then tried to hit Brock over the middle. That's probably wasn't the best throw. Then he tried another deep pass to dominate. That series, that was just undesirable. I just thought we could have did a better job with that 2-minute drill to just try to work on some things there. Let's try to move the ball down the field. I think we had one timeout. With the clock stopping every time you get a first down. I just don't think we handled that series well. And one of the things that I would like to see more that we didn't do a lot against Kent State and we didn't do a lot against Missouri is to get Stetson on the edge. He is a threat to run the football with a lot of play action, getting him on the edge. We did that more today. Now we can give easy tosses to the tight end or crossers coming over or comebacks on the outside with those bootlegs. And I know you have to be able to run the ball for that type of play to work. And we ran the ball well today. So I would love to see us to get Stetson more in the move and not let him just sit in the pocket. He's not the biggest quarterback and not the tallest. So I would like for us to use what he has, and that's his mobility, to have a more of a run-pass option when we do throw the football.
Let's check in back on Zoom here with Ace Dog. He joins us here on the Dog Nation post-game show presented by the UGA Bookstore. Ace Dog, thanks for being here. What'd you think about the game here today?
Oh, it was a great day to be a dog, B.A.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
I sure can. Go ahead.
Yeah, great day to be a dog. The offensive line had flashes. Moments they looked great. Other moments, I don't know. It was kind of iffy there. But overall, a good game. Before we go any further, I don't know if you guys can see me on video, but I'm going to show behind me right here for the other fans to see. Got a shirt right here from the game where the Pat Dye game you've been talking about. Shirt says "Man enough, dog enough." And that's exactly what we were today.
Ace Dog, I love that, and thank you for bringing that to our attention, and I appreciate you being on the show. And you're right. So much of what happened today was a little bit of a throwback to when the former Auburn coach Pat Dye went on the Paul Feinbaum show, kind of an early iteration of that many years ago, and going to that Alabama game in 2002 saying, I don't think Georgia's man enough to beat Alabama. That manhood was challenged. Terence Edwards talked about that on Dog Nation Daily this week. Georgia answered that challenge, went out there and got the win on the road at Alabama. This week, Brandon Council, the Auburn player, he kind of challenged that there as well, suggesting they had a chance to demolish Georgia, suggesting they had a chance to come in here, like what he said, like a SWAT team and whatever else that he said. As Ace Dog says there, Terrence, this is what Georgia stood up to today, having their manhood almost called into question a game like this against a hated rival. And I think that Terrence, Ace Dog is absolutely right. Georgia answered that call today, just like you guys did back in 2002 when Pat Dye said what he said.
Oh, most definitely. You know, when you have your manhood challenge, especially the way we were challenging, Pat Dye didn't think that we could go down to Bryant Denny and beat Alabama that year, which we did. I think we beat them convincingly, even though it was Billy Bennett's field goal that kind of put the game away. Tonight, we totally dominated up front. Bear Alexander really had a good game, and I'm just looking forward to seeing how that young man developed in that interior defensive line. So I think Coach Scott took that personal because you can see his defensive line today just dominated up front. And when you challenge a man, especially going into their own home, you got to bring it. And Georgia took that, especially as a slight at them, and it showed today.
I totally agree. I think it's a really good point, Terrence. We got a dog fan here live at the UGA Bookstore, which is where we are doing the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore here today. Tell us your name and what you thought about the game today.
My name's Cody. I think we started off a little slow, honestly. I think the last two games, we kind of needed to regroup, and I feel like the momentum and the fans really started driving it. And I actually looked over at the recruits. They all the 5-star and 4-star recruits there. They were starting to get in the game around, the end of the first quarter and stuff. But really, we really started to get momentum. Offense finally started catching up on to what we know they could be, especially after the first two games. Our defense finally started to step up. I think started making really good plays. Our offensive line started holding. I think this is not the best team that we've seen for sure, but they're a young team. They have a lot of regrouping to do, but they have a lot of experience from our veterans already on the team, and I think this is a good step for sure for the other half of the season coming up.
And Cody, I'll tell you this, it wasn't the least points that Georgia's given up this season. They've had a couple of games where they've given up fewer points, but I actually thought this was the best game Georgia's played defensively all day long, and it's really about the quarterback pass pressure. They were after Robbie Ashford all day long.
Oh, yeah. No sack. I know we did not have the sacks that we wanted to, but let me tell you, man, he was getting run everywhere over the field. I mean, if you saw how much, I'm not sure the stats on wise, but the amount of pressure we had on him, I mean, he was throwing that ball out in the stands if he could, just to get away from him, honestly.
Cody, it's a great comment. Thanks for coming by and seeing us. Appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot. So if you guys want to do what Cody did, come on, be on the show. We'll get you hooked up right over here, and we'll get you on. You can talk live about the Georgia Bulldogs right here on our Dog Nation postgame show from the UGA Bookstore. We've heard some great commentary thus far, and I think, Terrence, Cody brings up a really good point in that Robbie Ashford was running for his life today, and this is an example of, hey, the sack total wasn't there. I don't believe that Georgia actually was officially credited with any sacks, but as Cody said, when you get the quarterback on the run like that and he's just looking for anywhere he can to chunk the football because he's trying to get rid of it, that gives you an idea of just how relentless and effective Georgia was defensively today.
Oh, most definitely. They definitely was getting after him. We didn't record any sacks that I can recall, but the pressure today is just as good as sacks because he was trying to get outside the pocket, make some plays with his legs, which he can do, but we got him to throw the ball away or be very inaccurate once he got on the move. So that was very encouraging for the defense. So we got another week to get after one of my good friends, a guy I've known for a long time, A.J. Swan from Vanderbilt next weekend, and try to get after him. Then Tennessee comes into town pretty soon, and Hooker is another very mobile quarterback. And with the arsenal weapons that he has, we definitely going to have to get more pressure to make him inaccurate as well. So this definitely was a good sign that our defensive front got after it, and we didn't have to blitz as much to get to the quarterback.
So don't forget, whatever video comment section you're watching the show in, you can find a link to the Zoom connection. You can kind of join us live, and we'll take your call here on the show. That's what Ryan Walker has done. Ryan, welcome into the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. What did you think of this afternoon's game?
All right, beat it. You wanted to tip him, so you got to go. You got to start him early, raise him right. Of course, I got to represent.
That's exactly right. I love it.
Oh yeah, custom made shirt up here in Philly. I'll say this. I think the running game, we found the running game. We got three capable backs that are very different in styles. Branson Robinson is your power and speed guy, straight line guy. I got to give it to Kenny McIntosh. That's pretty much the James Cook. But shout out to Dejon Edwards. That dude is pretty much Terrell Davis 2.0. If you take his name off the back of his jersey, I know it's high praise. It's like looking back into a time machine, watching Terrell Davis run all over again, and when he was in his prime. But I got to say this about a few things we got to clean up. Special teams, we've got to stop muffing the ball. I mean, Ladd McConkey made some great plays today, but that is key. That has to be changed. You have Kyrus Jackson, who was second team All SEC as a return man. When you get down to the serious games that mean something to us, special teams is going to come into play. And you can't have mistakes like that playing against the Bamas, Tennessees, and Floridas in those big games. Now, Ladd came through and did his thing today. I got to give him his credit. And shout out to Stetson Bennett, 64-yard touchdown run, beautiful. And we might not get that much pressure on the quarterback right now, but I love what we're doing with the pressure from just pretty much pressure by committee. And Mr. Dumas Johnson, that dude is just a monster. But thanks for having me on today, BA, man. I was just impressed today for that second half fight that we had.
Ryan, it's a great comment. I appreciate you being a part of the show today. Really, really well spoken, really great words on what you saw from Georgia. And Terence, I'll bring you back on this, and I'll tell you this, is that Connor Riley, who does a lot of work for us at Dog Nation, he and I were talking during the game in which we kind of wanted to give player of the game to Jamon Dumas-Johnson because he was, as our previous caller was mentioning, he was really kind of setting the pace of the defense so well throughout the day. Ultimately, the stat line for Dejon Edwards was so good you couldn't really ignore that. But there was definitely, I think, a lot to like about what JDJ did in particular for this defense, or Pop, as they like to call him. This is a guy who I think is really coming into his own. And he had a special challenge today because obviously Georgia's a little banged up at the linebacker spot right now. Smile Mondon and obviously some guys kind of less than 100% right now. And I thought, knowing that Georgia needed a spark at the linebacker position, as Ryan mentioned there a moment ago, you got that in a huge way from Jamon Dumas-Johnson on this afternoon. And I thought his play in particular on defense was absolutely extraordinary, and I'm glad that we had a caller bring that up.
Oh, correct. And before I go, if that caller has been on twice, I remember next week, if he doesn't have a Terence Edwards made T-shirt on, then him and I are going to have a problem. And I'm going to find him, and I'm going to send him a message about that, because that is a nice shirt he has on. So if he don't have on Terence Edwards something next week, we're going to have an issue. But Dumas really had a good game, and I really like his leadership. The rant he had last week, I love it. I love it getting into your players' face and holding them accountable. I'm sure he can do that because he's holding himself accountable. Leaders have to hold themselves accountable. Mm-hmm. Leaders are not going to be perfect, but leaders also know if they mess up, they're vocal enough to say, "My bad, that was on me." They can hold themselves accountable, and that shows leadership. And that's one of the things that I talked about earlier, BA, with all the players that got drafted and left. That was what I was wondering. Who's going to be that guy that brought that leadership? And so far this year, he's definitely have been the leader on the defense, along with Chris Smith, along with Nolan Smith. And I tweeted this earlier, and I don't know if I said it on the show. I said this. Dejon Edwards days, Terrell Davis, Georgia days, they are very, very similar in height, weight, running style. So that caller there, I tweeted this, I talked about it, he's very spot on. And I know Terrell is a Hall of Famer. We're not talking about the Bronco Terrell Davis, but just go back and watch Terrell Davis at Georgia and what way his running style was in the NFL. Dejon Edwards reminds me of him a lot. Very underrated, but very accomplished so far.
And how much do you love this, Terrence, as a guy who's from this state and loves high school football in this state? Dejon's a guy that earned a spot on this Georgia roster by the way that he played in his senior year. And listen, he's also kind of been sort of that, guy that was only playing in late game situations the last couple of years. He had to earn what he got today. When you see a guy like this kind of fight his way onto the Georgia roster, and he was obviously an elite recruit, but he still had to sort of fight his way onto the Georgia roster and kind of fight his way up the depth chart. When you see a guy go from being a recruit that you weren't quite so sure, what Georgia's relationship was going to be to, he gets a chance to sign here, gets a chance to get some playing time, and then lo and behold, here on a night like this, you're glad to have him because he kind of set the tone for you offensively. How much do you love to see a guy like that climb the ladder during his career? Because I don't think there's any doubt this young man from Moultrie, that is exactly what he's done.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, in my day, back in my playing days, that's what you had to do to play. He wasn't an immediate starter. He wasn't one of the biggest recruits. He's one of those head scratchers from a lot of Georgia fans. Why did we sign this guy? And he's just worked his way up. And in this day and age, with the transfer portal, he stuck it out. He stayed the course. He knew he had some great backs in front of him. And I'm sure Coach McGee just telling him, your time is coming. Your time is coming. Just stay, continue to develop on and off the field. And now he's showing everyone that, he's a very talented back and deserves everything that he's getting right now because he's earned it.
So we'll take more of your comments here live at the UGA bookstore. You want to stop by and see us, you can be a part of that. We'll also take your comments on Zoom as well. Whichever video chat you're watching, you can click the link and be a part of the show. Also, speaking of Dejon Edwards, this seems like a great time to announce Dejon Edwards is our player of the game here, courtesy of Wilson PC, personal injury attorneys, for the huge stat line he put up, finding the end zone multiple times today. We'll make Dejon Edwards our player of the game. As I said, we almost gave it to Jamon Dumas-Johnson, and if not for the big push late by Edwards, we probably would have gone pop on this. But nonetheless, a deserving guy is Jamon Dumas-Johnson, but the ultimate winner here because of the huge line that he puts up is Dejon Edwards today, of course, courtesy of our friends at Wilson PC, personal injury attorneys. And for those of you living in the Atlanta area, and those of you driving through Atlanta as you go back home, you know this. When you're on the streets of Atlanta, Atlanta can kind of happen out of nowhere. Obviously, that's something we've all kind of come acquainted with, fender bender or something crazy happening while you're on the roads. Well, if Atlanta happens to you, and if you drive long enough, it very well might, when the unexpected, whatever that might be, happens, I want you to keep my friends at Wilson PC, personal injury attorneys, in mind for you, because in Atlanta or all across the great state of Georgia, the streets can be unpredictable. Wild things can sort of happen. But Wilson PC Personal Injury Attorney is there to protect you when something does happen, when you need to be made right after some sort of accident, when you've been injured or something like that. Well, that's when Wilson PC Personal Injury Attorney steps up and does great work for you, because you're talking about lawyers who've got the experience that comes and the expertise that comes after having really kind of seen it all on these streets of Atlanta over the years. That's what they're all about. So you can find them online by going to atlantahappens.com. I do love that website, atlantahappens.com. You can also give them a call at 888-838-YOU-WIN. That's 888-838-YOU-WIN, and you can connect with them today, and they can take good care of you and get you what you deserve if you've been hurt or injured in an accident. atlantahappens.com, or the phone number once again, 888-838-YOU-WIN. And congratulations to Dejon Edwards being our player of the game here, courtesy of our friends at Wilson PC, personal injury attorneys. All right, back to the Zoom calls. We want to go getting some thoughts from what happened in today's 42-10 rivalry game beatdown of Georgia against Auburn. Our good buddy Bryce Dixon, who's always such a very well-spoken and very, very passionate Georgia fan. Bryce joins us here on the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA bookstore. Bryce, what'd you see from these dogs here today?
It was just complete dominance by the defense. The defense did a great job. I think Stetson was starting to improve. He just got to get his routine back. But Dejon Edwards had 12 carries for 83 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was awesome. Then you had Stetson. He was 22 for 32 for 208 yards, 63-yard touchdown run. That was amazing. Then you had Jamon Dumas-Johnson with 5 tackles, 3 solo tackles. It was awesome. I mean, you look back to the Kansas State game. I mean, we were struggling. I've seen improvement, and I look forward to the Vanderbilt game, see what we can do versus them. But 500 total yards and 292 on the rushing yards, and then 208 passing yards. I mean, that's just a pretty good improvement from last few weeks. What do you think, B.A.?
I think you're exactly right, Bryce. I appreciate you saying that. I think you say that very well. And Terence is one of our other people, one of our folks in person, kind of said earlier to go along with what Bryce was saying there. The other thing I like about Stetson is you got to make the running game a part of what he brings to the table here. This is a guy that's clearly shown you that he's a good passer, but I believe that Bennett becomes a great player when you also lean on that rushing attack. He had the 60-plus whatever yard touchdown here today. That's got to be part of what he brings to the table. So, Terence, what I liked about what they did today was they turned him loose for that. You got the huge play. It's not easy to dial up a 60, 70-yard scoring play like that, but the quarterback run just, has the ability to catch a defense off guard. So, to go along with everything else that Bryce said there, Terence, I would also add to that when you turn Stetson loose and let him run the football, that's when you see a better version of this Georgia offense. The one game this season when Stetson did not have a rushing touchdown was last Saturday against Missouri. I don't think it's any surprise. It was also the game in which it certainly looked like Georgia was kind of sputtering and not very inspiring for a good bit of that night. Let Stetson Bennett run the football to go along with what they're also trying to do in the air. I just think that's very important for Georgia as you move into the second half of the regular season, which starts next Saturday.
Oh, most definitely. I think the keys to Stetson being Stetson is him being able to use his legs to get first downs, use his legs to get out of trouble. That's one of the things that I liked about him, that he was able to move around the pocket. And like I said earlier, we have to be able to allow him to get out on bootlegs and nakeds, to use his athleticism, get him more of a run-pass option. We're trying to make him sit back and be a pocket passer, and that is not per se his game. His game is just being able to be a natural athlete, to use his legs, get outside the pocket, and be out there. I personally think he's more accurate on the run than he is in the pocket. So we have to do a better job of using his legs. I don't know if he was hurt or why we didn't use his legs last week, but that gets him going. I think that's the formula to bringing out the best Stetson Bennett.
I think the point Terence is bringing up there is a really good one, that sometimes you do see a better version of Bennett throwing the ball when he's also on the run. A little bit counterintuitive to what you might expect to be true, but in Bennett's case, I think that has kind of been true many times. We'll go back to our Zoom calls here in just a quick second, but first let me remind you, we're here at the UGA Bookstore, and don't forget, next Saturday before Georgia takes on Vanderbilt, another great collection of autograph signings. Of course, starting at 10 a.m., Hot Rod, Rodrigo Blankenship's going to be in the house, the great former Georgia linebacker Monty Rice, Jason Stanley there as well, the former UGA wide receiver, and then, of course, from 1 to 3 next Saturday there as well. How about Aaron Murray on hand, the record-setting Georgia quarterback, of course, an analyst now, talking about football on television, beloved former Dog. He's going to be here. Malcolm Mitchell going to be here signing copies of his book, and Buck Ballou on hand there too. And, of course, this is also an opportunity for me to say that our prayers sincerely right now with the legendary former coach and athletic director Vince Dooley, who you may have read at dognation.com today, has been hospitalized, not able to be in attendance here today. Coach Dooley, we love you, and we're praying for you, and we can't wait to see you back feeling good and healthy again, and back being a part of what we're doing here at the UGA Bookstore before every game, and obviously the team that you certainly have given your life to, these Georgia Bulldogs. We'll look forward to seeing you back in Athens again very soon. Our prayers to you as you are a little under the weather right now. So read more about that at dognation.com, and obviously best wishes to feel better soon for Coach Dooley. We certainly say that. And we'll take our Zoom calls again here there too. Fred joins us here on the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. Fred, thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time and sharing your thoughts about UGA. What did you see from the Dogs today?
Well, first of all, go Dogs from Rossville. I want to say first that Branson Robinson is a grown man, and I'm real excited about see what he can do the rest of this season and the rest of his career. And I want to apologize to the rest of Dog Nation for ever doubting my Dogs today. They really brought it, especially the second half. So, no more doubts.
Fred, I think that's a great call, and I appreciate you being with us here today. And I think he brings up two really good points, Terence. First of all, and we're hearing this a lot, there are a lot of people that like Branson Robinson, and I understand why. And when Branson wasn't playing as much earlier this year, there was some thought of, hey, what's going on here? The deal is Branson just reminds people of Nick Chubb, and so they've kind of sort of taken the love they've had for Chubb, and obviously Dog fans will love him forever, and they've kind of given that over to Branson Robinson because they just sort of think that Robinson sort of reminds them of Chubb. Well, today he also gave you some Nick Chubb-style runs there too. So I think one of the big takeaways that we're hearing a lot in this comment section, whether it be our Zoom calls, the folks who've joined us here in person, there are a lot of people that want to see a lot more of Branson Robinson here going forward. And, Terrence, I don't mind telling you I'm happy to be on that list myself.
Oh, most definitely. I'm definitely on that list as well. I hope a speedy recovery to Kendall Milton because you can never have too many backs. And one thing Georgia has to always have the rotation of being able to use all the backs because in this backfield that we have right now, all the backs have a unique skill set, and all of them are very different. So we need to use all the running backs that we have to keep them fresh, for one, and just be able to use everyone's skill set, for two.
And here's the other thing, too, Terrence, and this is also echoed by Fred's comment there a moment ago. A lot of anxiety on the part of a lot of fans has kind of been calmed by getting the dominant win here. And we said kind of off the top of the program, hey, there's some stuff about today you might not like, but when you go out there and when you do it, 42-10 against Auburn, when you really flex defensively, when you kind of get back to sort of looking like RBU again, are you noticing like me that right now a lot of Georgia fans sort of feel like, okay, this feels a little bit more like Georgia. Whatever that was in Columbia, Missouri, that was a different team. And certainly whatever that was against Kent State 2 weeks ago, that's a different team. I'm sort of getting the impression today a lot of folks sort of felt like this looked a little bit more like Georgia here tonight.
Oh, we did. We definitely. I think everyone's been clamoring about what's going on with our running game. Even in this climate of throwing the football all over, and we definitely had some games where we was throwing the football. I think we're averaging almost 300-yard pass, and people are still wondering where's the running game. That's Georgia brand being able to run the football in today. The offensive line did a great job of opening holes for all three backs. All three backs did a great job of taking advantage of each carry that they received. And if we could get Stetson, I think, playing the way we know he can play, and that's just not being a Peyton Manning in the pocket. We got to be able to get him on the move, but the running game will help that because now play action comes into forward where we will have Darnell Washington leaking in the flats and Oscar Depp coming in today, get some catches. So we have legit weapons that we can use in the play action game, but we have to be able to run the ball against a better team. So play action will be able to work.
Back to the phones we go. JC joins us here in the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA bookstore. JC, how about them dogs? What'd you think about today?
How about them dogs? Go dogs. Definitely prayers for Coach Dooley. Great coach. He guided us to our second national championship. So definitely thanks for that, BA. Also, too, I agree with everything been said. Our running game came together today. Defense played well. We did have some sloppy plays there. That fumble and then the tackling for that touchdown. So we got to clean that up. And hopefully Stetson can get back to where he was in the first three games because it seems like something wrong when he kind of threw the ball a little bit today. But we got the win. That's the main thing. And we're on to Vanderbilt. So hopefully we can get those things corrected in the next game.
JC, great comments. Thanks for being a part of our Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA bookstore. And Terrence, I like what you said about Stetson a little earlier. You like the version of Stetson you get when he's on the run. But beyond that, I mean, I don't mind telling you that something today did appear to be off, that, you know, he was really misfiring. And thankfully, there was a lot right happening for Georgia. And so you weren't, going to be able to or need to dwell on maybe some of what he wasn't, doing quite so well. But that doesn't mean it wasn't true, because it was. At one point in time, on 10 attempts, he only had 25 yards passing. That's just 2.5 yards per attempt. I'm not very smart, but even I can do the math on that, and that's not getting it done. So, beyond what you said a little earlier about wanting to see Bennett on the move a little bit more and letting him throw on the move, what did you think about some of the accuracy issues beyond that? A wide-open touchdown for Brock Bowers, and that was missed today. A touchdown opportunity for Ladd McConkey, that was missed today. There were some really big plays that were kind of left out there because of what I thought was an errant throw. And now people know I'm a Stetson Bennett, believer. I think that Bennett's a good quarterback. But today was not a good day. What do you attribute that to, Terrence, if anything?
That's one of the things that you have to be able to see him every day at practice. So I don't know if you were making those throws in practice. I don't know, report that his shoulder was hurting, and it also could go back to confidence as well. When you're a confident player, you can go out and per se give you a basketball term, have a heat check, just be able to throw the ball in the ocean. And right now, he cannot throw the ball in the ocean right now. I don't know what's going on with him. His short to immediate game has been okay, but his deep ball today to Ladd McConkey, I think Ladd still could have made that play, but Stetson and make it easy on him, the Brock Bowers play. And there's another play that the normal eye wouldn't see. It was a scramble play, and it was in the first half, and he had Kearis Jackson running an over route, and he missed Kearis on an easy over route throw. And that throw there probably was the easiest throw out of the three that he missed. So I don't know. The first half against Missouri, he didn't play well. In the second half, he did play well against Missouri. Today, he didn't play well in the first half, and he came back and played well in the second half. So Stetson's just going to have to figure out what's going on. I think the coach is going to have to figure out what's going on. I mean, if you just watch the screen pass he tried to throw to Kenny McIntosh today, he didn't grip the ball properly. So he just got to get back and just believe in himself, and it's all about confidence. Athletes play football, play basketball about, and it's their confidence. If your confidence is high, you're going to play better. If your confidence is low and you start thinking and questioning, you're not going to play as well as you should.
By the way, you may notice I'm wearing my pullover here, Columbia quarter zip pullover from our friends at the UGA bookstore. I love this time of year because it means it's time for quarter zip season to come out, and no better place to get stocked up on all the pullovers you need for great fall weather than right here at the UGA bookstore, whether it be the Columbia like I'm wearing, you want the UGA 10 line from Peter Millar, you want the Nike coaches gear like you see on the sidelines, all of those great quarter zip pullovers, which is perfect for this time of year, right down there on the first floor at the UGA bookstore. You can see that. They're also going to be open for another half an hour here, so if you're leaving the stadium or you're kind of finishing touches on the tailgate, pop on over here, do some quick shopping. You can also still have some time to pop on and be a part of the show with us here for a couple more minutes anyway, live from the UGA bookstore as we do the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA bookstore. And for those of you watching, couldn't be here with us watching, you can also be a part of that by clicking that Zoom link in the video chat that you're a part of right now, and you can be on the show live just by clicking into that link, including Melissa Robinette. Always great to see her. She joins us here on the Dog Nation post-game show here presented by the UGA bookstore. Melissa, thanks for your time. And how about them dogs? How'd you feel about the game?
Hey, how about them dogs, Brandon? Really happy to get the W today. I was worried about this game going in, so I was happy to see them win. I agree with Stetson. I think that the past few weeks, he's just been off. He did comment in the TV postgame comments that it felt like they were having a little bit more fun in the second half, and maybe he felt a little better. So that was good to hear, but I still agree that he has been off. I'm curious from the defensive side of the ball. We made a few comments during the game that it feels like to me that we haven't been blitzing at all this season, and I don't know if that's just what they're calling up, if that's part of the plan. But it feels like we're not getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and I'm worried about that with Tennessee coming up and games like Kentucky. I feel like that's going to come back to bite us. So I'm curious what y'all have to say about that.
Well, Melissa, let me ask you, though, did you not feel like they were getting after the quarterback better today? Now, they didn't get sacks today, but they definitely, I felt like, made Ashford kind of run for his life, and against a less athletic quarterback, I do think some of those probably turn into sacks. So I guess my answer to your question, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to this. My answer to your question would be, I thought this was kind of a listless pass rush in previous weeks, but today, and this is something I've been pretty emphatic about. Today, I actually thought they got after the quarterback today better than they probably have all season long. Did you feel that way about what you saw today?
I would agree with you on that, but I mean, he's the third quarterback in line, right? Or I mean, he's young. I felt like he wore down as the game went on, so maybe that's why we got a little bit more pressure on him. It just felt like maybe this was early in the game that we were not getting after him, and he was sitting back and having way too much time to pass. So I agree with you. I do think that we got a little bit more pressure today, but I was watching the game with some family, and we all just kind of felt like there was a few times that we thought, why are we not bringing the blitz? Why are we not getting after him more? So that's my comment to that.
Melissa, great comment. Thanks for being here. And Terence, I'll bring you back in on this in that, as she said, and she's right, obviously Ashford's the number 3 quarterback there, so maybe he's a little easier to rattle. But he's also a really good athlete. I don't think there's any doubt he's the best athlete of any of the quarterbacks they have. And if you're chasing him the way that you are today, I truly believe against a less athletic quarterback, I think a lot of that is going to turn into sacks because, honestly, I know he didn't throw the ball very well today, but Robbie Ashford's a good athlete. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, so one thing about playing a very athletic quarterback like Robbie Ashford today, like you really don't want to overblitz him because now if you get him in one passing lane with the defensive backfield with their back turn, look what Stetson did to you today. That was a perfect play call for the defense that Auburn brought. They brought a little pressure, but they played man coverage, and every defender back was turned to Stetson. So what you try to do with a young quarterback like that, you can play coverage and allow your front to get pressure and try to generate pressure and get him on the move. Now you kind of box him in, and we had a spy on him a few times. Really over-blitz a quarterback that has that type of mobility because he will break out for a 60, 70-yard run, and those are the plays you don't want a quarterback like Ashford to have. We'll allow him to throw. If he beat us throwing the football, he wins. But we can't allow a quarterback like that to beat us running the football.
And I'll add one more thing to what Melissa was talking about, too. Obviously, Georgia's preference is not to blitz, especially right now, given the fact that they're still trying to figure out, I believe, what they have in their defensive secondary and trying to, kind of work in new starters sort of first half of the season, a couple of key roles there. They're not as experienced back there as they would have been a year ago. No more Darren Kendrick, no more Lewisine, guys like that. So I do think they're hesitant to want to put too much pressure on their defensive secondary because obviously blitzing creates more opportunities for those guys to be in tough coverage situations when Georgia really needs it. Hendon Hooker coming up in November is maybe an example of this. Maybe you do see more of that from Georgia. Last year, one of the spots that Georgia did bring pressure a lot was kind of with that sort of up-the-middle blitz with those linebackers. That's something that Dan Lanning really enjoyed doing. We haven't really seen Georgia need to do that yet. Maybe we will see more of that when it matters because obviously against a guy like Hooker, Tennessee had a huge win today against LSU. You're going to have to dial up a lot more, I would say, exotic stuff against a guy like that than you've done for most of the quarterbacks you played thus far this year. One of our favorite things about being here at the UGA bookstore, we get a chance to see a lot of the folks that we read their comments throughout the week on Dog Nation Daily. Good dog fans who stop by and be a part of it with us, including our buddy Richard Dees, who stops by to see us right now. Richard, how you doing? And thanks for being here today.
I'm doing great, man. I'm really happy with the team, and I think that Stetson just has to work on putting a little more air into some of those long balls. And of course, you saw the dynamic between the experienced DBs talking to Malachi Starks, telling him, hey, move over, cover this guy. He's not quite there on a cornerback position, which he got beat on one or two, but he's definitely out there rangy as a safety and playing.
Almost got his third pick today.
Yeah, exactly. So he's playing really great. So I think they're just working all the kinks out, and like Terence was saying earlier, just being systematic with the drives, I think is a good idea, and not trying to go for the long ball all the time. But they definitely need to work on it, float a little bit more, and then I think that the game will come together.
Well, here's the thing, too, and I think Terrence brought this up earlier today there as well. Last week you have Jamon Dumas-Johnson, and he's pushing guys hard, and they're kind of, having these, vocal conversations, very animated. I don't mind that stuff. I don't mind that at all. We saw this obviously with Channing Tindall and Kobe Dean, the national championship game a year ago. When you're passionate, when you're a competitor, when you're an alpha, of course there's going to be some screaming and yelling. There's going to be some pushing and shoving every now and then. But it's all about, getting it channeled on the field. So the fact this team is kind of pushing each other, these defensive players in particular, to me, this is a lot of what made this team so good last year.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, the Kobe Dean last year, when he got on to Channing about it, and the next play, what did Channing do? He went out and sacked Bryce right away. So, man, they just need to keep pushing each other, and the team will get better, and I'm real positive about everything.
No doubt. Richard, you're a great commenter. Appreciate you being a part of our show each and every week, and good to have you here live on the scene at the Dog Nation Postgame Show presented by the UGA Bookstore, and obviously we're having a great time. I tell you, I love these home games because you get a chance to see so many dog fans that you maybe connect with online during the week, but you see them in person this time of year, and they bring out their sons, and everybody's having a good time, and you love to see that. A lot of good dog fans having a great time here on the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. By the way, speaking of legendary commenters, one of the guys who's always got plenty to say is our buddy Chris Slim White from Facebook, joining us here live in the video comment section tonight on Zoom. And you can do just like Chris did and click that link and be a part of the show. We always love Chris's commentary. Chris, thanks for being a part of our Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. What did you think about what you saw here this evening?
Hey there, BA. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. Well, I think it was a good game, but Stetson, I think he be trying to force the ball to Brock too much, and he got to go to the other guys because they actually making catches. And Branson looked awesome, and also the guy that nobody's talking about, Ryan Davis, was all over the field today.
Chris, that's a great comment. Appreciate you being there. I'm glad you brought Ryan Davis into this because that's another guy, Terrence, as Chris points out. Georgia's a little banged up at linebacker right now. You got to have guys stepping up. And Ryan Davis, one of those guys that he's been waiting his time. He's battled injury. He had the injury going back to senior year of high school. He's had to really kind of fight to get on the football field here for Georgia. But as Chris said, I thought he was, wearing number 0. I thought he was kind of moving all over the place today and doing a lot of stuff. So I think one of the things to kind of point out about what Chris just said there is there was a lot to like with the guy they call trouble, Ryan Davis, there at that linebacker position. Pretty impressive performance from him.
It's most definitely, man, when you get opportunity to play for whatever reason, injury, or the person that's in front of you not playing well, you got to go out and show the coaches why you should be out there. And I think today he played a really good game. He was real solid. You didn't see him make a lot of mistakes, and he's just one of those other guys that just worked and worked and worked. And we know that he's had a lot of injuries, so I'm very happy and proud of that guy for continue to work, continue to stick it out, not leave, not abandon the program because he wasn't playing yet, and you had some guys playing over him like Smiles Monday right now. So when you get your opportunity, you got to go out there and shine, and he did today. So now we have more linebackers because Georgia and that defensive front love to have sub packages, and he could be in those sub packages moving forward.
And as far as like forcing the ball to Brock Bowers, I guess the only thing I saw in regards to that was there was a moment in which, I mean, Stetson clearly tried to throw to Brock when he was being essentially triple teamed. That was obviously not a good decision on the part of Stetson Bennett. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's a throw that Bennett would probably like to have had back. But, I mean, Bowers also showed his ability to get behind the defense, beyond defenders on what should have been a very easy touchdown. In that particular case, Bennett just misfired and just couldn't connect with him. But that needs to be a touchdown right there, and that's what Bowers has the ability to do, which is completely separate himself from a defender. So that's one in which he was thrown to and should have been a touchdown. But almost right after that, you come right back and kind of try to force it to him in a triple team situation, and that's clearly a throw that Bennett should not have made.
Oh, most definitely. When you just have trust in a individual on make those type throws, and that was an ill-advised throw. We're trying to go in before half and move the football, and he probably should have went somewhere else with that football. At that point in time, you just missed Brock probably for a walk-in touchdown. So those are that one drive that I spoke about earlier that he's going to go back and watch the film, and that's definitely a teaching moment when we're in a 2-minute situation because we might have to use the 2 minute to go down and win the game. And if your first read is not there, let's check it down or find a second or third option or run it or throw the ball away. We can't make those mistakes and take points away from us.
All right, we'll come back and have a lot more with Terence Edwards, hear his thoughts in the game, your thoughts there too. You can join us via Zoom. We'll read some of your comments the old-fashioned way there as well. But I do want to stop here for a moment and hear some of the words of Georgia coach Kirby Smart from his post-game press conference, weighing in on a 42-10 rivalry win over Auburn. Here is a little bit of a taste of what Kirby Smart had to say about that press conference that took place just a few minutes ago.
Game, then we'll go to questions. Like always, I'll start with thanking the fans. I thought the atmosphere was great. I knew right when I came out of the tunnel, and I looked up in the rafters, and it was packed. I knew that Auburn was going to be in for a tough time from the crowd standpoint, and a team that had not played on the road, which is tough to do in the SEC. I thought our crowd impacted the game. I thought our guys came out with a game plan of strike and attack. We really wanted to be physical. We wanted to win the line of scrimmage. We thought it would pay dividends in the fourth quarter. In the second half, being a somewhat hot day, and I thought it took its toll on their team in the second half for our team to be able to run the ball the way they did. So that helped us. We continue to grow and get better. This team has proven that it's resilient and tough, but we've got a lot of things that we can clean up. And, we didn't play as well as we could have, but I want to say I'm very proud of the way our team went after it, and they struck and they attacked. Yeah, I'll open it up.
How satisfying was the run game today, Coach?
It was good. I mean, I still think there's inconsistencies. There's things we miss on, We miss a couple. We miss a block here. A guy runs through. A couple times backs just made people miss. We had a 3rd and 2 that we didn't touch anybody, and Dejan made 2 people miss. But it was much better at the line of scrimmage. We played more physical at the line of scrimmage, and I thought that we wore the other team down, which, the environment was a little different too. It's just the heat wears on defensive linemen. Some teams have more they can use, and some teams don't.
Speaking of the run game, how huge was Dejan Edwards' game today, especially with Kendall Baker?
I thought he did a great job. He does a really good job around the goal line, making people miss. He's elusive, but not so much explosive. He does a great job. Probably not going to break off a super long run, but he gets a lot of positive runs. It's really hard to get him for a tackle for a loss. And Branson, the addition of Branson was really big for us. He was a guy that we felt like all week we had to get more opportunities for him because he's run the ball really well in practice. It gives us a little bit of a burst, and he was able to get some carries with Kendall dinged up, and I thought he did a nice job.
You mentioned the heat and the impact that had in the second half. What's it say that Jamon Dumas-Johnson was able to play as much as he did, especially with no Schmel, no Tresman today, and deliver the kind of performance he did?
Yeah, he works really hard. He was dinged up here the week. He missed, I want to say Monday, Tuesday, and he was able to go Wednesday, Thursday, and conditioned, ran hard. He runs extra after practice so that he can play more snaps, and was really proud of the guys that stepped up there and played. Sorey got significant playing time today for the first time, non-third down, and Ryan Davis had to step up and play because we got some dinged up guys, some injuries.
What was your reaction to Stetson's 64-yard run touchdown?
I was happy for it. It was a great call by Monk, and good design play, and they were in what we thought they were going to be in, and it worked great, but it wouldn't have been explosive if it wasn't for a really good athlete. It proves again that he's multidimensional. He's hard to defend because of the things he can do.
What was Malachi's mentality coming into this game? Obviously, he lost a friend in the last several days, but he played hard out there. Was that a bit of a distraction this week?
You probably have to ask Malachi that because I don't know. We did talk to him about it, and he was very close, and thoughts and prayers with his family. But Malachi's parents reached out and let us know that he was close to him, and Malachi handled it very maturely.
That's Kirby Smart there. You can hear the entirety of the press conference. Actually, watch the full press conference. If you go to the Dog Nation YouTube page, which is where some of you are watching us right now, the full Kirby Smart press conference will be on that Dog Nation YouTube page tonight. You can watch that. You can see Stetson Bennett. I'm actually really curious to hear some of what Bennett had to say about his performance here today, so you'll be able to see that on the Dog Nation YouTube page there as well. But no surprise there, Terrence, that Kirby's saying some good things about Branson Robinson, some good things about Dejon Edwards, some good things about the Georgia running game. None of us want Georgia to be a run-first team, but I think most of us would say that Georgia needed to run it better than it had prior to tonight. This was a step in that direction. And I don't mind telling you this, Terrence. And a lot of what you're hearing from Kirby Smart there, and I know this may sound crazy, but there was actually a lot of stuff I liked tonight better than what I liked in the Oregon game to begin the season and the South Carolina game, prior to that, or I should say prior to this a couple of weeks ago, in terms of Georgia's long-term potential. I thought some of the stuff you saw tonight is the kind of thing that they'll use more in November, December, January than some of what you saw those first two big dominant wins against Oregon and South Carolina. Some of that for me may have been opponent-driven. Some of that to me may have been a little bit different identity than the one that had led Georgia to a national championship last season. So I don't know that every fan feels this way, but for me, I may actually take more season-long positives from what Georgia did tonight than I would have from the Oregon game and the South Carolina game, even though to the naked eye, those may have seemed like slightly more dominant performances. I'm not quite so sure I didn't like Georgia in totality more tonight than I did in those two games.
I think we had almost 300-yard rushing today. And if we connect on those two deep balls, Stetson probably have 300-yard passing today. So Georgia's almost at 300 yards passing and 300 yards rushing. That's dominance. That's total dominance. So I agree with you on that. Just the style of play today, I enjoyed more today because we was able to get those running backs carries. And I know the offensive line love when you put the game on their shoulders, and they played well today. So we got to continue to get an offensive line who have been much maligned so far this year, not been able to open up holes. Today they opened up some holes, and the backs took advantage of those opportunities. And Branson Robinson finished up with 98-yard rushing. I wish he could have got two more yards to have his first career 100-yard game. So I agree with you on that, BA. I like today's win better than I did the South Carolina and Oregon win as well.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to read a few comments to kind of wrap up our show here in just a bit. Let folks kind of share their thoughts kind of the traditional way on Facebook and YouTube and DogNation.com. Also, while we have a chance, I'm going to go cruising around the SEC courtesy of Royal Caribbean and give you an update on scores from around the SEC. Bama and A&M just getting underway here. They're in Tuscaloosa, so obviously no score from a game there that just started, but a lot of attention on this. This is the CBS primetime game. They get one of these every year, and obviously when it was scheduled to be at 8 p.m., you thought there'd be a lot more juice around this than the actual truth really is. Bama's about a 24-point favorite. A&M is playing its original starting quarterback, but the guy that became the backup quarterback. I haven't seen yet. Some of y'all can tell me. Has Bama had no, the game just started, so we haven't seen Bama with the football yet. I don't know if Bryce Young's playing tonight or not, so some of y'all may know this already. They may have said this in the TV broadcast. Y'all tell us what you're hearing on that. As far as the rest of the SEC goes, also first quarter action in Lexington where South Carolina has jumped out in front 7-0 on Kentucky. Will Levis, the Kentucky quarterback, as we told you this week during Dog Nation Daily, battling injury. There was a little bit of dispute about whether or not he was going to play in today's game. I believe that, come to find out, he's not playing in the game here today. He was seen before the game kind of in a walking boot, and it didn't even appear that he was going to try to play whatsoever. Might not even be in uniform for the game. So Kentucky without Will Levis tonight and trailing early against South Carolina. Speaking of an injured quarterback, Arkansas also had one of those today. K.J. Jefferson did not go for the Hogs. And they were a big loser on the road today against Mississippi State. 40-17 is the final there. And pretty quickly, the team making as big a statement right now as anybody in the SEC is maybe Mississippi State. This is a team that has a chance to be ranked quite high. And they've got games with Alabama coming up. Obviously, Georgia goes there in November, too. And so right now, Mississippi State is proving itself to be a very tough out here in the SEC, including getting a 40-17 win against Arkansas here today. Florida beats Missouri 24-17. Tennessee also makes a big statement on the road at LSU. 40-13 is the final there. We told you, I don't think that LSU's really probably all that good, but this is still something that Tennessee had not done in a while. Tennessee had only won twice in its last however many years of outings in the SEC West, so they go out there and do something they had not done, getting that big win against SEC West competition. And then a score we were watching during today's Georgia game, Vanderbilt had the lead for quite a while against Ole Miss, but eventually the Rebels come storming back. At one point in time, this was like 10-3 Vanderbilt, then 20-10, but the final goes down 52-28 for Ole Miss getting the win at Vanderbilt. I'll see if I can kind of check some top 25 scores here outside the SEC too. Kansas did lose to TCU today, and Jalen Daniels, the Jayhawks quarterback, was injured there. So that was one of the big national showcase games today, if you want to call it that. And Kansas quarterback gets hurt. BYU Notre Dame playing right now. That's 6-3 with the Cougars on top. Game taking place in Las Vegas. Clemson's got the 3-0 lead in the red bandana game at Boston College here right now. Earlier action, obviously you're well aware that Texas just totally obliterated Oklahoma. Was the final there. 42-0, I think, from earlier today. So we're obviously following all those scores. You can obviously stay close to Dog Nation. We'll give you updates on all of that. But a very intriguing day in the SEC as a couple of future Georgia opponents, Tennessee and Mississippi State, they both look really strong in getting wins in the league. And obviously that sets up the month of November to be a very big time for Georgia. Of course, speaking of big time for Georgia fans, November may be that, but when the season's concluded, you can also have a big time yourself on board a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. You know, I've got a cruise, boom, right after the season's over with. I got the Dog Nation cruise coming up in April, and that's something we want everybody to be a part of. Our good friend Jessica Slater from Dream Vacations helping you getting set up and booked up for all of that. She's put a very important and fun website together. It's called RoyalDogs.com. If you'll check that website, RoyalDogs.com, you can find out about how to be on board Independence of the Seas with us this April. That's April 24th. We're leaving out of Port Canaveral. We're going to Nassau in the Bahamas. We're going to Perfect Day Coco Cay. Going to be on board Independence of the Seas. All the great things that you've come to expect from a Royal Caribbean cruise vacation, but also some specially themed Dog Nation events as well. It's going to be a great time, and can't wait to have you on board Independence of the Seas this April as we take our second ever Dog Nation cruise. So check out RoyalDogs.com and you can be a part of that, or give Jessica Slater a call at the number that you see there on your screen. All right, Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. We're getting ready to wrap things up here in just a little bit. By the way, big thanks to our friends at the UGA Bookstore for making all of this possible here today. Always great hosts for us, and they got some great stuff going on next Saturday. Georgia back at home again. 2 different sessions of autographs to be signed there, including from 10 a.m. to noon. Hot Rod, Rodrigo Blankenship's going to be here. Monty Rice going to be here. Jason Stanley going to be here. Then from 1 to 3, Malcolm Mitchell, Buck Bellew, as they have been all season long, and the great former Georgia quarterback Aaron Murray, he's going to be on hand as well. So very, very excited about all of that. Great collection of autographs next week. And, of course, you hear me talking about the apparel all the time here with the UGA Bookstore. Don't forget, there's also another really cool thing from an apparel standpoint that you can get here at the UGA bookstore, which is a really cool thing. It's the custom Nike jersey from Stetson Bennett from Brock Bowers. You actually get those down there on the first floor of the UGA bookstore as well. So that's a fun thing to see right here when you come to the UGA bookstore. So make sure you check that out. All right, final comments, and we'll get ready to wrap things up here on a Saturday night as the Dogs get a 42-10 win over a hated rival, and Georgia fans see a lot to like from this game and also some stuff they want to work on there as well. All right, let's see what else. Uncle Sam says Stetson's timing has been subject to diversity. He says as Stetson struggles, his timing struggles also. It gets so bad he can't hit a receiver out of the backfield in stride. I'd say that it's fair to say that his timing was off today. I mean, Terrence, in what was otherwise a good day for Georgia, I don't see any need to sugarcoat the issues of the passing game. That has to be better. Now, we know that Stetson Bennett's capable of playing better because we've seen him play better than he played today. But I don't mind telling you, it needs to be better than it was this afternoon. A good day for Georgia overall, but not a good day for the passing game in particular. I don't mind saying that. I don't think that you do either.
And then you haven't been told yet, Bryce Young is not starting right now. Jalen Milroe is taking the first series. But most definitely, we will all love Stetson to get back to the Stetson that I fell in love with. I still think he's the best option for us at quarterback right now. I think for some reason his confidence have been shot, and he just has to get it back. He has to get it back, and as a shooter, you could continue to shoot. And Stetson is a shooter. We just got to continue to use his legs just to get his confidence back, and I think we will. So I'm excited to see him next week because he did play better in the second half. He did use his leg. They did get him outside the pocket. So that's some of the things that I think we continue to work on, continue to do, to continue to improve him as a quarterback.
John Avito in our YouTube comment section asking anybody see what happened to Brandon Council. Obviously, the Auburn player who talked about demolishing Georgia and some of that. Our producer, Michael Carvell, gives us his note that Council actually finishes his career 0-4 against Georgia, and that means that for his senior class or some of these super seniors also leaving without ever having tasted victory in the Deep South's oldest rivalry. And, boy, that's a fun thing to consider. Listen, I grew up at a time in which getting a win against Auburn was a very big deal. And some of us also can kind of remember, too, back in 2010 when obviously, Auburn with Cam Newton got the win against Georgia and, Nick Fairley involved in what I would call some cheap shot, late hit type stuff against Aaron Murray. And, boy, those Auburn fans, they were so proud of that when that happened. Well, guess what? If that game was a child, that child would be experiencing puberty right now. That's how long it's been since that took place. So Auburn fans can kind of soak in that here for a little bit. And they can also know that since that moment they were so proud of, it has been nothing but total dominance virtually every other game since then. So enjoy that as you reminisce about 2010. And by the way, showing the Nick Fairley stuff on the video board a couple of years ago there at Jordan-Hare Stadium, don't think that Georgia forgot about that either. So so there you go. So y'all get me worked up here late in the show. But, yeah, Terrence, I don't believe that Mr. Brandon Council is going to be saying any more trash talk about Georgia anytime again soon. I think that's the point that we're getting to on that.
Most definitely. When you go over against a certain school, you probably shouldn't be running off at the mouth at the beginning of the week. You have never beat Georgia, haven't came close to beating Georgia. So he probably should, never pull that stunt again. But it was total dominance today. I really enjoyed watching them Dogs play today. It was definitely a different vibe than last week. I was never comfortable last week with Georgia in the way we played today. I was comfortable. The vibe came from the TV, like Kirby said. The fans was there. The fans is always going to turn out against our rivalry against Auburn. And now, as all the coaches say, it's a 24-hour rule. Enjoy this tonight, and let's get ready for Vanderbilt and homecoming.
By the way, Antoine Middleton also pointing out how nice it is for a guy like Dejon Edwards showing that perseverance to stick it out at UGA and be rewarded for his patience and his perseverance. Antoine, I think that's a great point there as well. All right, we're going to sign off for now. Thanks for being here on our Dog Nation Postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. Feels good to say it. Dogs on top, 42-10. Feels great to have been here at the UGA Bookstore here this evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here next Saturday for Georgia Vanderbilt. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'll also see you Monday for Dog Nation Daily. We'll talk more about what happens here here. We'll dissect what the Georgia coaches and players had to say after the game. Terence Edwards, thanks for your time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. We always appreciate your insight on UGA. Thanks for sharing it with us here today.
Thank you, BA. Look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Absolutely. For Dog Nation Daily and for all of you who've tuned in to be a part of this here this evening, we appreciate that there as well. Enjoy your weekend. Rest up. We need you ready to go for homecoming next Saturday as Vanderbilt comes calling. We'll see you then for that. But for now, this has been the Dog Nation Postgame Show presented by the UGA Bookstore here at the UGA Bookstore. We'll see you again next time.